It is the Michael Jordan episode of Money Trees. So it's only fitting I bring on a future GOAT. Prolific creator across mediums, whether it be music, writing, art direction, sports. This man finds a way to evoke emotion out of everything he does. It is my pleasure to welcome D.VOIID to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. That's a great introduction. I love that.
my guy. Yo, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Blessed, highly flavored, loving life. The snow is melting. It means we can go walk outside and not have slush in our socks.
Yeah, that was nice.
Where are you at right now?
I'm home. I'm homebound right now.
You up?
Or I'm at home.
You're in Harlem?
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
hell yeah.
Harlem.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Gio, thank you for taking the time. Always knew I wanted you to come on the show. Worked out perfectly. We got you born on the 23rd, here on the 23rd episode.
Yep, only right. That's synchronicity right there.
Exactly. So, I'm really grateful for the talented people I have in my life. And they play a really pivotal role in all of my successes. You are real life family. I have known you my entire life. So thinking about what we would talk about for 30 minutes was really easy, but at the same time, like hella difficult. But we have a show to tape, right, and this episode is about you. So I want to talk about some of the fascinating things that, you're working on and touch on the path that you took to get here. Knowing that we're both Renaissance men, when strangers ask you, what do you do? What's your answer?
Well, firstly, I always tell them I have a day job so I can kind of ground them in reality before they kind of throw out their predictions. But I tell them that I'm an artist, musician primarily, but deep down I'm a writer. I try to hide that behind music and such. But I tell them I'm a writer, really, writer musician.
Why do you think you hide the writing piece of it?
It's sort of like it's almost like a trope. I feel that I find amongst other writers, like it's like a prank, played on people. Like, it's not that I'm hiding it. It's like if you say you're a writer, people automatically think that you sleep on the train or something like that. So it's just always funny to kind of mess with people's expectations. But I wear it loud and proud for sure.
Whenever you say writer, I think of probably our favorite fictional writer, Hank Moody, and how so much of your character arc, I'll say, just in the way that you dress, the conversation really, really aligns with his flow.
Yeah, sure.
Would you say that that's accurate?
Oh yeah, I mean everybody has a sort of big influence in their life, whether it's in person or fictional. And he's definitely up there on my Mount Rushmore. But I think all good idols are just good examples of a path to follow. So that was what I related to. But either way, yeah, he's definitely up there. He's a funny mf'er.
I like that Mount Rushmore. Who else would you have on your Mount Rushmore of influences or inspirations?
Inspirations, I would want a few Mount Rushmores, but if I had to stick with
no, it's all good. It doesn't have to be 4. Just give me we're carving it how you want. You've got a full construction team. The all mountain is a clean slate.
Who's I got a whole brick of marble. Well, I'd have to put Langston Hughes up there. He's definitely up there. Obviously it's February, you got to start off with that. Who else is up there? I really love Henry Miller. I think he was a very overlooked artist. If anyone's not familiar with him, he was prolific in like the 20s over in Paris, but his books were banned for about 50 years. And if I had to put him on my Mount Rushmore, he'd probably be closer to like the left, so like you could look at him first and then be like, okay, he's like a bit older. More recently, like another Mount Rushmore, damn. Future would have to be, chiseled up there because, he's carried the whole world for the past, really 8 years, low key. I'm really trying to diversify my portfolio here, but, how about we chip away as the conversation goes? Because I know.
I love that though. Having Langston Hughes and Future next to each other in anything, I think is a super sick visual.
Yeah. Well, I had to make that connection. This is called the Crossroads.
Well, you're really well read. And I think that that stems, part from your own habits, but also part in like the education path that you took.
Hmm.
So I'm 2 years older than D.VOIID, and we both entered the boarding school system at the same time. And it was funny enough, I was actually supposed to attend your alma mater's rival school.
Which
You
one?
went to Andover. I was supposed to go to Exeter.
Oh, word.
And the whole thing was like, oh, redoing my freshman year of high school. And I couldn't do that. So, back to the public school system in the
Sure,
Poconos I
yeah.
went.
Sure.
Uh, what was it like for you at Andover as a creative and an athlete?
Um, well, structurally, the athletic part definitely was more, I guess, like visible. It was just, go to practice every day, go to preseason. But as a creative, it was like it almost felt like being, Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like I would have to really carve out time to do so. But I always made sure that, when I didn't have obligations, and, whether it was football or I did yoga, which is really funny. No one expected that. But I would always make sure to, play whatever open mics I could. It was really a battle though, it was kind of funny. uh I remember one time, like, we had this game and I was a freshman and we were going away to Choate, and it was probably the worst game of my whole career. That freshman year was character building for sure. But I didn't realize that you had to be on the bus so early. But I was in my room just, playing my guitar and just really into it. And it caused this whole kind of like scandal on the bus, but that's neither here nor there. I would have to say it was always a bit of a battle, but obviously we see which one won out now. I'm sticking with the guitar.
So that's hilarious. Thinking that you're like late for a game because you're just chilling, vibing out.
Yeah,
I will say you do move on your own time, so I'm not
yeah,
not surprised to
I'm
hear
not
that one.
surprised.
You know what's wild? Thinking about you just in the guitar when you brought up the guitar. I remember, and I don't know what year it was. I think it was after your freshman year. You
Mhm.
had sent me a beat that you said you had made at the school's computer lab. Is
Right.
that it? So
Yeah.
okay.
Well, we had like a radio studio, so you can go and use the monitors, things like that.
Bruh, it was one of the hardest beats to this day that I've still ever heard from your Dead Gang era.
Right.
And, I was trying to get anybody that I knew that was rapping at the time, like, yo, y'all gotta jump on this. Like, nah, my cousin is crazy. He's
Right.
17 making this, like, and how
I
wild is
remember.
that?
Yeah.
Because your younger brother is same boat, same high output level of creativity.
Right.
Um, which I think is again just highlighting how lucky I am that my family's so talented. Jason was on earlier. Would
Yeah.
love KK to eventually come and chop it up.
We got the
But
Jackson Five.
yo, low key, man. Like
Yeah.
maybe not even that low key. We got
Yeah.
our animation, the music's coming, but it's been ill watching, your sound evolve over time. What's been like the biggest catalyst for you with changing the sounds? Because I think that where you're at now sonically is
Mhm.
a good bit different than the music you were making in the Andover days.
Definitely. So I think looking back, I was always trying to make sure that my production skills were good. So I didn't want to. I was finding that trying to be sort of avant-garde from the beginning just wouldn't work in the sense of like I needed good footwork, so to speak. So I really started out like you were mentioning before, just making beats and these sort of twisty instrumentals. And I guess the catalyst really came from my interest in production came from my interest in rap. That obviously the words are what's highlighted in the genre, but everybody knows like a good beat can make a song. So I was always attracted to that. And but I always play guitar as well, and anybody can point out a handful of rock and rap crossovers and just be they laugh at them now. Some of them are pretty good, but anyway, it was just like trying to marry those two sides. Like I always play guitar, but of course guitar is kind of scarce in rap, so listen to rock, and then it's like, well, damn, what's the bridge? So I was like, well, if I want to be authentic to both sides, I have to incorporate both. So I guess the catalyst was, if you want a more so timeline, because yeah, even like up until freaking college, like I was just making rap beats, but I'm not a rapper, you know. Like I'm not about to sit here and talk about slanging, you know, or breaking down slabs or something like that. Like it'd be nice if I could, but that's a different life, you know. But anyway, um, the the point is, I was just like, you know, I don't hear guitar like that. Like, you know, I've been playing for so many damn years, and it was always interesting because when I play guitar, I didn't, you know, I don't want to go on about it, but I didn't play with like a lot of instrumentals. I was just playing, I guess, to my own tempo. So
When
I
did you
guess,
start playing guitar? I don't even know when you started.
like officially, like first time I put my hands on guitar was like 9. Uh, we always would have like acoustics around the apartment, so I mean they were always around. But yeah, I would say like interest in it and like mess around on a fretboard was 9, 10. But serious, whenever I got my first like great guitar, which I still have to this day, it's actually named Rosa. Um, what do you call it? I got that when I was 12. I have a freaking annoying Facebook photo of that. But
Can
yeah.
we throw a guitarist on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have to make a few spaces for that, but I would have to obviously throw Jimmy. You know, everyone has a T-shirt of him, but he was really like a pioneer in everything like you could think of guitar. Um, and it just speaks to how like I'm about to gush about this dude. It just speaks to how like regenerative. Sorry,
No, I'll say
what
it.
did you say?
Please do, because I think the interesting thing with like Jimi Hendrix is almost a cliche, right? Where it's like, oh, of course that's your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But I've realized, because I can enjoy rock and appreciate the skill that goes into it. But you've put me on to classic bands like The Doors and tons of other acts that I just hadn't ever really come across. And you start to realize, like, yo, the reason that people like Jimi Hendrix become these kind of cliche artists, it's because their skill level was so like above and beyond everyone else's, like the Jimmys or the
Yeah.
Princes. And everyone has these different types of stories that, where they connected with the artist or where they relate to them. So yeah, it's like, talk to us about like what Jimmy meant to you, because it's always different hearing it person to person.
Yeah, for sure. I won't lie. Like my initial introduction was the merchandise or seeing posters or just hearing about him, pop culture. But actually taking a deep dive into his music, um, he was just very good at. So okay, guitar is broken down typically in a band to rhythm and lead, but the way that he would play the blues was like um, it was just seamless. Like you couldn't really tell which was which until he started soloing, low key. Um, he was almost a one man band, and in that sense, he was able to create music that's just irreplicable. So um, I guess just to speak to Jimmy's playing style, like he learned right handed first, and he's left handed. That just tells you a lot. He was a bit of a he's a bit of a criminal. He got nicked for grand theft or grand theft auto or whatever, and he was in this band. I forget who. It might have been the Isley Brothers or something like that. But it was just like this jazz band where if you flubbed the note, which is like miss one note, they would dock your pay. So he's really technical, even though he looked like a you know flamingo on LSD when he would play. He was still like really like it's just impossible. You could spend I might literally spend my life trying to explain it right now. Like it's just insane. So Jimmy's up there. He's the best soloer to have ever touched a guitar for sure. Like Stevie Ray Vaughan might get his little flowers here and there, but he's irrelevant. Like, and he's black too, so like that's just more fire. Like it just should been obviously. Um, okay, who else though? Yeah, I don't even want to venture. Oh, are we still
No,
talking
no,
about
it's
that?
good. It's good. It's good. Yo, so Money Trees, really loose format. G. The idea
Yeah, yeah, sure.
is I'm just surrounded by all these fire people, and I want y'all to be able to come and plant a seed, plant an idea, plant a tree here in this moment in time. We use blockchain to make it immutable. And so this moment kind of lasts digitally in a way that we haven't been able to encapsulate before. So
Right.
don't feel weird. Like I go on tangents all of the time. That's like
No,
that's the reason why this format is this way, because like my brain starts jumping to 35 different things. Like when you said the Jimi Hendrix piece and you were talking about how he's lefty but learned to play righty first, and I'm in my mind like, damn. Well, one, I can't play guitar, but I definitely prided myself on my Guitar Hero expert level skills, and I'm like, I could not imagine trying to play Guitar Hero lefty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't even make sense. Were you a fan of the Guitar Hero games?
Well, truth be told, that's how I got into guitar. Yeah, that's something I was always like, I don't know if I want to be bragged about that, but no, absolutely. Guitar Hero was like a great introduction. I was already like thinking about guitar, but I'm kind of like, I don't really know. Like, that shit seems hard as hell. Like people up there quite literally like shredding and burning their guitars. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. But yeah, Guitar Hero was great because there's so many good songs. So you could like, if you're good at playing a song, you're like, oh, let me investigate in the band. Now people like have a lot more access, I think, to indie music or just the possibility of listening to it. But Guitar Hero gave you like a front row seat, and you're freaking 7 years old playing this game, so it's just influential.
Man, without Guitar Hero 3, I don't like my rock knowledge would have been literally none. So I
Right.
don't think there's any shame there. I mean, I'll do you one even worse. I probably hadn't heard more than 3 Beatles songs until Rock Band Beatles came out.
But look,
And
that's all right. The Rolling Stones are way better. You don't need to even listen to
oh,
Beatles.
well, that was see, even that. Like
Yeah.
I thought the Beatles were cool. And the only reason I really found joints that I liked is that there was an achievement where you had to beat the game in 24 hours. So I was up at Nana's place and I played it for like, I think it took me like 13 or 14 hours straight.
Yeah.
And so I was on a Beatles kick for like a month after that. But
Yeah, you're just like, here comes the sun. Doo-doo-doo-doo.
all right, Rolling Stones, new fan. What's the album I need to go check out?
Wait, time out. Oh, you're saying for Exile on Main Street for sure,
Okay.
for sure.
That's where we'll start.
Yeah,
I need some new
absolutely.
tunes for the weekend.
They're also just the best band. Like, I again, it's like talking about Kobe all day. You could just write a novel about it.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue.
Right? I didn't even
I
mean to
was,
say it.
no, it's good. You sent me an advanced preview of your new book, Anatomy of an Anarchist.
Right.
We both have a really deep love for writing and like expression through words.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest though, G, your grip on language is mesmerizing. Like I don't that's
I
the
get some
best
amazing.
adjective I can have for that. I was reading it, I found myself pulled in, and I don't really want to give away too many of the spoilers, but let's talk a little more on the process side, right? So
Sure.
how does that work for you in your mind? What's the difference between sitting down to write a song versus sitting down to put together a novel?
So for songs, you're really capturing more of a mood, and it can take on the form of a lot of different things. Meaning, you can compare it to like making a painting or cooking a meal. Um, but with a novel, you have a bit more. I feel that you have a bit more leeway to make mistakes, to change at the last second. It's a lot of thought, of course, but it's kind of like creating Sims. Like okay, if you have an idea for whatever kind of story, you create characters, you create a setting, and that's just it's a creation, but it's going to be organic and it's going to grow independent of you. So that it's kind of like fostering this sort of family. A novel is. So sitting down to write though, like that's where like the sort of brick by brick uh, approach comes in. It seems not fun because it can definitely be not fun, but it's so rewarding. It's like hiking or something. You don't want to do it, but it looks nice at the end.
I think it's great at the end. With
Yeah.
this book in particular, is there like a particular moment in time where you knew you had to tell this story?
For sure, for sure. It was most sparked by my so leaving college. Definitely was like, okay, I knew something was brewing in terms of like creative process, because I knew I wanted to start or begin a creative path. So this book definitely was sort of like cemented by that. But it's really, you mentioned prep school before. It's really a culmination of, I would say my education and my education as a whole. Um, yeah, I've been writing short stories since literally second grade, and my bad.
No, you're good. I wanted to just chime in real quick because I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
that you went to back prestigious schools from middle school to high school. So we spoke on Andover for high school, Fay for middle, and then Williams for university for college.
Right.
And that is a difficult task on its own. Staying creative throughout that process is those environments they're not exactly known for fostering creativity. And
Nope.
so it was always interesting for me to see like how you would navigate that along with something as rigid as academia, or well, as rigid as being a student athlete, where
Mhm.
needing to have all of that balance together. So when I was reading your story, I was able to kind of see a lot of those parallels. So I'm glad that that was the impetus for it, because as I was reading, I'm like, damn, like I see this, like I see the kind of frustration with the systems
Right.
and the lack of care that they can pay to the people that come through them, and how the anatomy of an anarchist looks.
Right.
So I just wanted to
Well,
add that. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a very it's a good observation. To give more kind of background or plot, it's about it's set in this very very kind of futuristic place or world, but it's about elementary schoolers. That those are like the principal characters. Um, there's a whole array of just different sort of even species of beings, let's say, in this whole story. But the point is, it's all about the decisions of a very young person, um, who, yeah, having to navigate school is something that's, I think, really overlooked, like from a very young age. So I think when I say that college definitely sparked it's like it doesn't even seem like much of a different boat, being in a college class or to being kindergarten, in that it really comes down to your decisions. Time management. Look, I mean, obviously, timeout is a different. It look has a different look, as you get older. But all those elements are still there. So I think your point as to you being able to see parallels is good, because you don't necessarily have to be there to understand. Not all systems are going to fit, and um, just alternative viewpoints. So I think it's a good point.
Yeah, G. So when I was reading this, another part of the money trees thing is Web3, and how can I incorporate, or how can I kind of put more of the people that are in my sphere into this new internet age. And I don't know if there's many Web3 book projects. I started looking them up. I had seen a couple of articles that had been sold as NFTs, but my brain kind of got turning like, wow, wait a second. You can flip the publishing world on its head using Web3,
Mhm.
where, and I don't want to get too far ahead on it, because, we've talked a little bit on this in just the space, but it would be wild for you to release an excerpt of this book and show it to people and be like, hey, like, we're going to forego the publisher's route
Right.
and do it ourselves. And you can sell directly to the people. You could have different price models. You're not limited to, oh, okay, well, who's the agent going to go shop it with? And
Mhm.
no, they need to change all these things because your editor doesn't like it. You already had an editor. You edited it. You
Yeah,
already had an editor go through and do it the way that you want. That's one of the fire things to me just about Web3 in this space is like, yo, that ownership looks different. That ownership can start to feel different.
right,
So I want to explore more of what that looks like, and not just on this chat, like long term with you, to try to
right.
figure out, like, okay, what kind of book and like are book NFTs? Is that a thing? Is it a book crowd fund? Are you able to, put out the first book and say, here, y'all are able to buy this copy and fund my next one?
Right.
Who knows?
No, you're completely right in that it's like I see it like a seed being planted in a very like it seems fertile, but it's still unknown at the moment. So it's just possibilities on possibilities, branches on branches is how I see it. But to speak more to just the direction of it or the velocity of it, yeah, I think uh, books are definitely obsolete. They're very much like a antique thing. No matter how new a story can be, books are an ancient process. So people will always have that sort of vintage outlook about it. But like you're saying, like Web3 is it's a whole new plane of existence. It seems so.
I still love books. I can't. It's crazy. I
Right.
can't. I can't iPad or I can't iPad. I can't Kindle. I gave audiobooks a shot and I see the value in them, but me personally, a tactile book is still it for me.
Yeah, of course.
Have I told you about what Gary Vee did with his book?
No, remind me.
So Gary Vee had an interesting kind of rollout for his book called 12 and a half. And he was like, yo, well, caveat, Gary Vee is Gary Vee, huge celebrity, would have already had a New York Times bestseller on his own.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, what he did was say, like, yo, I will give you all an NFT if you purchase 12 copies of my book. And what did that lead to? That book went number one on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and all the places that were selling books. And
Yeah,
people were
naturally.
buying dozens of copies. And for him, it was a win-win because he told people, he's like, yo, what you do with these extra copies is give them out to people who need to read it, who need to hear this story, who need to kind of get this message that I'm selling
Right.
for the it's a great marketing ploy because you get a ton of attention, but it's really a good way to get your book into the hands of more people
Right.
where you may have not bought that book yourself, but if somebody gifted you that book or you were, given that book as part of something else or you saw kind of the hype around it,
Yeah.
you're a lot more likely to read it. It's
Yeah.
now in your possession. So I'd love that. That is currently my favorite example that I've seen used with like NFTs and books because it didn't necessarily say like, oh, here you have to read the book as an NFT or like whatever. It's like, no, we still have our physical book, but we're attaching it and using this space as a tool to kind of tell that message.
Right. Right. It's a good word to use. Tool. Absolutely. I'm just digesting what you said because what do you call it? Gary Vee is such a personality that
Yeah.
you gotta love anything he does. He's like a magician almost. But yeah, to your point, moving a book in the direction it needs to go. Um, I always feel that it comes down to the visuals. Like you're saying, books are very tactile. Like you want to feel it. You want to be able to kind of. Computers just feel like lifeless almost when you're reading. Um, I'm not trying to lose that, even though I'm primarily digital. But I think the feeling really, or the word is just visceral. Like it should always just be visceral to read something, no matter what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
I would definitely say on the visceral side, it made me think about the Cormac McCarthy book, Blood Meridian, you had me read. And
Yeah, favorite
how
book.
that
Yeah,
was, yeah, just an insane use of imagery and vocab to paint pictures. The one thing with NFTs and Web3s is, and I emphasize this for everyone, is your intention getting into the space is everything. And so for you, like your storytelling is very intentional. So there is for sure a way to incorporate that level um, of intention with a release and a way to get fans excited about it. Like you said, it's still adding the visual elements where you could say, yo, here's the story, but I need X amount of dollars or I need X amount of, people to support so we can then go and get this artist to commission to do the book cover. And
Right.
now all of a sudden, instead of you having to try to figure out like, yo, how can I make the visual elements of this the exact way that I want under my budget? It's like, no, I can show people the story that I'm building, show them the world that I have, and then they can help support that and say, yo, yeah, cool. Let's go and tap whoever it is. And then you get that collab and now you add in that visual element. And that just becomes kind of one piece of that.
Right, absolutely. And again, like you're saying, you want to have a sort of, I even call it a syndicate, like a collection of people who, like Gary Vee knew, would be important for the future of the artwork. And I think it's important. One thing I would really advise myself if I had my, trusty time machine is to really see yourself, no matter how much of an artist you are or how sensitive you might feel that you are when you create. You have to see yourself as really a warrior, but more so a business person. And this is just perfect because it's my friend Moose, who's in love with just the nature of business. I don't know what the word for that is, but he's very like into just that kind of stuff. So negotiating. Anyway, he says it's all creativity. So what you're saying is definitely making me think of that as well. Like, how do I not even how, it's like let's make this visual component. I always want everything I do to be turned into cinema. That's my intention. Like you said, I write with intention, so that's definitely what it is.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point there with just kind of like having to put that business hat on. And sometimes that's difficult. A lot of times that's difficult. When you're good at multiple things, finding the one to put your time into, like that can be like a next to impossible decision.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, you need to promote the book, but you also want to expand on the story, or you're trying to go back and do whatever else to it, or you're working on the next idea for it. I think for me, it starts with knowing like what I'm working towards, right? And then I can kind of have that endpoint, and I start looking at how can I reverse engineer getting there.
Right.
When Jason came on, I had asked him about his goals for the year, but but he started speaking on them, and I was like, yo, let's take metrics out of it. Don't say you want this many followers or this many likes. Talk to me about what you want to have learned or what you want to have created, and let's focus on that. Not that the likes and the
Yeah.
numbers and the metrics aren't important, but for the sake of your own goal setting, let's adjust that perspective. I think for me, that's been one of the biggest helps, like taking the metric side out of it and just saying like, okay, how can I do this? What do I want to do? Like, what am I trying to get out of it? Okay, money trees. I want to have great conversations with all these people that are in my sphere and making that the goal, making sure I'm learning, making sure I'm putting their message out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it made it click more for me. It made it easier for me to think about ways to promote and ways to do like sharing it and just ways to talk about it. And it's not as daunting where it's like, oh, okay, there's not that there aren't expectations, but I'm not getting down on myself because there isn't a certain follower count associated with that yet. It's like finding new ways to measure that success.
Yeah, you're just saying don't measure your wiener.
Put the rulers away.
Yeah, no metric system.
When
That's a great question.
Well, I was gonna say, when you look at your 2022, right?
Mm.
Plant some specific trees here. What are you looking to do the rest of this year?
My principal goal is to create a presence that extends really across the country and be leading up into creating a presence in terms of I'll explain what presence means later, but there and in different continents, at least two other continents, but start creating the overarching goal is to create a global presence. But what I mean by presence is like people following from different regions, people purchasing a book, or I have an album coming out as well called Hades Baby. Um, People, engaging or streaming from there. If I come out with merchandise, I want to have sales from, just different places. Really, just sort of building a network while still, connecting to New York. But I would say that's my principal goal. Like, again, like you're saying, like, okay, don't be like, oh, let me get 20K followers, because even if you get that many, how are you managing each of those people? Who is everybody? Even if you get that much, it's like, all right, now you have to sift through thousands of people and really, create a plan from there. So, and if you do, obviously great. But yeah, I think you're right in saying like it doesn't have to be, concrete. It can be an abstract sort of just set list, or
To me, metrics are like the sub goal, where it's
right,
like, okay, I have my main thing, and that's what I attach like my drive and passion to.
yeah,
But then the sub goals are like, okay, like business, like you said, like merchandise. You want to have the merch spread across continents. Okay, what does that need to look like? Well, I need to talk to this many people. I need to make sure that I'm, trying to do ad campaigns, or I'm trying to go and get this sponsorship. So, it's not, again, not ignoring that side of it, but
hmm,
just at a top level, removing the metric piece of it.
absolutely. Well, the way I like to look at it is, I play sports. I played sports my whole life, so it's only natural that I see things in that frame. But just in the nature of just sports consumption, in terms of even merchandise in that sense, but people who watch different sports across the country, and even in the United States, soccer is a pretty prevalent sport. Whether I mean, we joke on MLS like it's our stepbrother or something like that, but um, nevertheless, I kind of want to have that sort of. It sounds like I'm puffing up, but just in the way that soccer is easily consumable around different countries, different cultures. Like you can play with the can, you can you know um, have it on the most expensive platforms. Play in Dubai or whatever. The point is, I'd like eventually to have that sort of fluidity, to where it's like, okay, you don't have to necessarily be in possession of everything I've ever owned, or if I print out an NFT or whatever, you don't have to have 20 of them in your basement. But there should just be a little bit for everybody. Like you could be someone in Venezuela, and I could have a translation that, oh, you're reading, or if it's of something that I release later, like short stories or poems or something like that. I want to have something that's consumable, not because I'm trying to just blanket the earth, but it's because I think um, through my writing and just through what I do, there's something for everybody. And if it helps you realize, or it helps you escape or connect more to your world, whichever you prefer, then I did my job. So
Yo, that's a fire message. And again, we talked about it, the intention.
mhm. Thank you. Yeah.
What about NFTs is the most confusing to you? Because and it's like I'm gonna give you a little shit, whereas like print an NFT and it's little
I
things like
know, I
that,
know,
right?
I
No, no,
know, I
no, no,
know,
no. I'm,
I
I'm
know. I was
teasing. I'm
joking.
teasing. I'm teasing. But it's like, on a serious note, what question is on your mind that I have not answered regarding this space?
Mm, so I definitely think that if I had to gripe about NFTs, it is the fact that they seem very like exclusionary, in the sense of like almost like there's these sets of like country clubs already, or big art houses, whatever you want to call them. Um, but it's still widely misunderstood. I think you could probably say that about a lot of art, especially paintings and things like that. Like no one gets what the purpose is for. But I think my like where it's nuanced is like, okay, if people are saying that Web3 is just as important as the creation of what's in the modern day internet, then like to some degree, people are going to need to have a necessity to access it. You know what I mean? Like, if you need to go on the web, internet, and correct me if I'm speaking out of sort of, I don't want to say ignorance, but if I'm
No,
just
you're good. You're
completely
good.
getting
This is
no. What I'm trying to say is, like, if I'm missing up, like how you said, you don't print them. And pardon the siren, but I live in Harlem. But anyway, my whole point was just that if there is some necessity to it, as there is for a on the internet, like if you need to look up how to cook something or you cut yourself, what herb can I use, whatever it is. I don't know. I think that I guess my whole gripe, or what I don't understand, is just like, yeah, like how can there be powerhouses when no one really gets it yet?
Well, to answer that directly, because I think there's two parts to that, right? To
Yeah.
answer the powerhouse side of it, it's people were here early. People were here early. They had money or had influence or had a really, really great idea when it was a highly concentrated space, and
Yeah.
they were able to capture a huge portion of the market based off kind of one of those three things. Now, the thing will become as more competition gets into it, the quality will need to rise, and the accessibility point that you touched on earlier is going to be a massive, massive, massive factor in what adoption looks like and what these powerhouses look like in the future. So I use the example of Coinbase, where Coinbase has more people on their waiting list than currently own an NFT. So what that means is that the second their marketplace launches, they're going to substantially increase the amount of users that have access to it. And another thing to your point is like the price prohibitive nature of it. This is something that we'll definitely talk about. And yeah, like you answered that perfectly. I need to put you on to the other blockchains, because
Okay.
that's the thing too, is that NFT is just a type of technology the way that money is a type of technology. But the yen is different than the pound, is different than the euro, is different than the dollar. So when we
Right.
start thinking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the main two, there's actually quite a few other blockchains that all have their own pros and cons to them, some that are a ton more accessible than Ethereum. Ethereum is the powerhouse just because it was the first major blockchain post Bitcoin. And
Right.
it's gotten super expensive. And there's so many people that will think NFTs is BS because they're only exposed to one side of it, where like you see a bunch of people spending $250,000 on potentially, I'm not even going to get into the Bored Ape thing, but just when you see
No.
people potentially wasting money, we can say it becomes hard, or especially potentially wasting life-changing money, it becomes a little confusing, to say the least. So there's
Right.
other blockchains like Tezos and Solana, and these chains operate at nearly, like, the transaction fees are nearly free, where it's like fractions of a penny. So it does add up, and it is a way for the platforms to make money due to the sheer amount of volume.
Yeah.
But for the user, it's like, oh, okay, I can buy this thing for $1 and I have to pay 1/10 of a penny extra for it. That's fine. You
Yeah.
can't sell anything for $1 on ETH because it'll cost you at least $7 to send it somewhere else. And
Right.
so it becomes like, oh, I also use the example of like free shipping versus $5.99 for shipping, where that psychologically becomes different.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to make sure I do once we get out of here is send you more information on some of these other blockchains, because there are users on them. There are marketplaces being built on them. And to my initial point about how these places became powerhouses, they were in a highly concentrated market early with great ideas or resources. So some of these other blockchains might actually really appeal to you and offer the potential for you to, you know, capture some of that early market as well.
Right. Okay. No, I think that definitely put some clarity into it. Yeah, and of course, like, I know that the most major uh, players in the game don't really define it necessarily, like, or its future. But yeah, of course, having a lot of guap and good ideas is, never a bad recipe. But no, you're right. You're right.
So,
Yeah. Oh
cuz
yeah.
this has been this has been gas, man. We get, again, like I said at the start, we could literally go on 4 hours as we tend to do when we chop.
Yeah.
I think we've got some trees planted today. I think that there is some ish for us to look back on and see some action items immediately, but also just to look back and say, all right, are we doing what we said we would do here? I'm
Absolutely.
excited for others to read this story, to read this novel. I
Yeah.
think that it's so, again, it was mesmerizing. That was the word that I used. And it captured my attention in a way that I don't really read fiction normally either. Like, I haven't read fiction
Mm.
consistently since my young adult novel days. Shout out Percy Jackson, the Olympians.
Well, just a quick little conclusion on that is that
Yeah.
books like that, are a big inspiration for books like this, Anatomy of an Anarchist. It's I really call it a short epic. It's like it's a journey, but it's not too long. So, again, it's really it's for everybody, and it's for me and for everybody. So, again, yeah.
Before I let you get out of here,
Mhm.
I have 2 questions I ask everyone. The first question is going to be, what is your seed phrase? Now, in the Web3 world, seed phrase refers to a 12 or 24 word account recovery key that you get when you set up your crypto wallet.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell people that seed phrase is not scary enough. Because if you lose your seed phrase, you lose access to all of your NFTs, all of your cryptocurrencies. There needs to be a term that like puts a little fear in your heart. You need to hear that and be like, oh shit, okay, yeah, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of this password right here. So
Right.
on Money Trees, we've repurposed seed phrase. Seed phrase is going to be the quote or saying or lyric that you live by that kind of embodies your ethos, your approach to the space, your approach to your art.
Okay.
D.VOIID, what is your seed phrase?
My seed phrase is lose sleep for your dreams.
Yo, man, I love this. I think lose sleep for your dreams.
Mm.
I'm gonna have to make a book. Oh wow, look at this. Look at Money Tree playing right here. I'm gonna have to make a book of all the seed phrases that I'm being blessed with
Yeah.
because y'all are inspirational. And I don't mean that like facetiously. Like I'm dead ass.
Yeah.
Lose sleep for your dreams. Why is that your seed phrase?
Well, it has some personal history. I can't usually sleep at night, so that's kind of when I do a lot of my creative work. So it's sort of it's a reminder. I'm not a big fan of tattoos. I think if you have a tattoo, I don't know, that's besides the point. But I still think quotes are cool. So it's just like sometimes you have to sacrifice a lot of physically, emotionally, mentally, to make something that will ultimately make you happy for a long time come true. So it's like it's the carrot over my head if I were a horse.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, okay. I like that. I also like the carrot analogy. I think quotes help you. They're like reminders for me. When I see them, I'm like, okay, yeah. Sometimes you stray off the path a little bit, and you just got to get nudged back onto your goal. We're
Right.
gonna
Right.
list this one of one fire Money Trees number 23 note up for sale after this episode. What is the price going to be?
Um, I'm gonna have to cut it at an even 500.
500 USD?
Yes, sir. Keeping it.
Okay, there it
Yeah.
is. You said patriotic?
Yeah, keeping it in the homeland currency.
No, I'm weak, bro. um, all right, so fire, yo. Man, thank you for coming out. Thank you for chopping. This has
Right.
been really, really dope. Do we
Thanks
have
for having
any
me.
release dates to attach for the people?
Ooh, it's a good question. I will say, if you've been tuning in, just follow my Instagram, and that's the best place to get updates. I don't have anything concrete right now.
Soon come.
Soon come.
There it is, G. All right, yo.
Thank
I
you for having
will.
me.
Of course. When's the next time I'm seeing you? When are you pulling up?
Next few days for sure. Also, I have to remember shout out Cisco. He wanted me to shout him out, so he helped me on the music. So I will say, okay, release date's definitely in the spring to summer, for the music, and the book's coming soon. I'll talk to you more about that at a later date.
There it is.
All right, man.
All right, man. I'll catch you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
All right.
Peace.